Hi, this is Stephanie Miller from The Stephanie Miller Show. Please enjoy this exclusive clip from my show on Political Voices Network. I bet you were up reading the Jack Smith report all night, you big nerd, weren't you?
I was. I've already recorded the first audio episode. It'll be out any minute. We're going to read it for free on the Jack podcast feed. So you don't have to read it yourself. You can just listen.
I mean, we always say, like, we all marinate in this stuff, particularly you, but there's still something about reading it, isn't it, in black and white, and just going, oh my God, he had to, how did Charlie say it? He had him. He just had him. He would have been convicted. I mean, there's no clearer way to say it. He committed crimes, but for this election, he would have been convicted. I mean, did you find it anything shocking, depressing? How did it strike you?
A couple of new things, like some references to text messages on Signal between the Cheese, our good friend Ken Chesbrough, and Representative Scott Perry. That were kind of really interesting, acknowledging that they lost the election. Also, I'm really glad that he outlined all of the key witnesses that refused to testify, and, Merrick Garland had to sue to compel their testimony. That court battle, because the courts were backed up with COVID and January 6ers, took almost a year. And so, a lot of the delay that people are concerned about or talk about, it came from that, and I'm glad that Jack Smith laid all that out. Even Garland had about 9 people, and then Jack Smith had to deal with another 4. They finally got the testimony or gave people immunity, like Kash Patel and Meadows. But I'm glad he laid out like kind of the reasons this thing took as long as it did, and it's not what a lot of people think.
So you've been posting, about Merrick Garland. As I just asked Senator Whitehouse, as I've asked everybody this week, why doesn't he just drop these charges and release the classified documents report? I feel like it's a matter of national security. You mentioned Kash Patel, about to get installed as the head of the FBI. I mean, it's going to be dropped Monday. So just explain your thinking on it, because you don't just marinate, you do the backstroke in this stuff.
Well, one lawyer very smarter than me said, if he just drops the charges, then that means Cannon's dismissal of Jack Smith stands, which means everything he did was unconstitutional, which would bar both volumes of the report from coming out. The DOJ has argued otherwise, but until a court agrees with them, that's kind of how it stands. So Cannon screwed the whole thing up for pretty much everybody.
Yeah, screwed the pooch for sure. So what is, I'm just curious, Allison, what is the timeline? What's today? 14th? So she's scheduled this hearing for the 17th.
Friday.
I mean, she's clearly doing everything she can to run out the clock on everything. So what happens?
She has no jurisdiction to even schedule the hearing, because this is all with the 11th Circuit now. She should be sitting there doing nothing.
That's what I don't get. She's like, I'll allow the release of January 6th. What do you mean allow? You have no jurisdiction over it in the first place, right?
Well, no, but if she puts a court order in, it has to be overturned by a higher court. You have to obey a court order, even if it's wrong, until it's overturned by a higher court.
So I think this one was Marcy Wheeler. She said Eileen Cannon has thus far said that Grassley and Durbin can't do their job. They can't consider Kash Patel's conduct in the Espionage Act investigation or his suitability to be FBI director. Durbin may well have standing to complain about Cannon's interference in his constitutional duties. It's high time he considered making the cost of Cannon's interference clear. What's your take on that? What can we do at this point? This is a national security matter, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think on today's Daily Beans podcast, I did a call to action to call Senator Dick Durbin and tell him to either file an amicus with the 11th Circuit saying he needs Volume 2 of the report to do his constitutional duty of giving advice and consent on Kash Patel, because Kash Patel is likely implicated in Volume 2 of that report. And so I was getting everybody to pick up the phone and call Dick Durbin, or at least get him behind a microphone and demand that he be able to see this report and see if we can't get the 11th Circuit. My fear is the 11th Circuit knows that Eileen Cannon could be appointed to their bench by Donald Trump, and that they don't want to upset a future colleague or a future Supreme Court justice who's probably going to leapfrog all of them. So they might just be sitting there and waiting until it's too late for them to have to do anything.
Oh, God. I keep going to this, the part about that he knows why Trump took them and what he was going to do with them, the documents. And how is that not a matter of the utmost national security?
Yeah, well, I mean, what would it accomplish at this point? We we had a trial ready to go in May, and it should have gone, and the American people should have heard what happened.
Yeah.
But the Supreme Court came in. Clarence Thomas said Jack Smith was probably not appointed properly, and gave Cannon the window to write her weird 93-page ruling overturning the entire case. So
Yeah.
here we are.